Hey, this is The Hard Truth. Tony Shaffer, powered by 6 Hour Never Settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carry the best. The best is 6 Hour. I recommend you grab a 6 Hour as well. Here today, I'm showing up my basic P320 45 caliber weapon that I actually kind of use for around the house. You know, cleaning out rats, things like that. It's always fun. Anyway, I do recommend you guys check out SIG, Never Settle. I never do, and you shouldn't either. We are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out at Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com.net, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all the other social media in the world that we can get a hold of and stay on without getting kicked off. So without being further delayed and hopefully not kicked off, we're joined by my friend, Susan.
Hello,
Susan Olsen. Susan
right.
from
Get a Rumble chat too.
Yeah, the star of Stage and Screen, one of our dear friends, and who was on the Brady Bunch, right?
Yep.
And so she played Cindy on the Brady Bunch.
Yep.
Right. And so I told her yesterday when we were texting, and don't take this the wrong way, I had a kitty crush on you. And a kitty crush is not as a crush. It's not a sexual thing. It's like when I was growing up, I was growing up in the Philippines. My dad was in the Air Force.
Oh.
And I watched the Brady Bunch. And you were like this cool little girl, literally almost the same age as me. And I just thought, man, it would be cool to hang out and do fun things with. So it was like a crush without any like, it wasn't even sexual. It was just kind of like, hey, she's a cool person. It would be cool to hang out with. You know what I'm saying?
You thought that about Cindy?
Yeah.
No, you.
See, I thought you said it was
the
Buffy.
person behind the character. No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean, it was all.
I didn't understand that quite.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, it was just like, you would be a cool person to hang out with. You know, like, as a kid, you know, like,
yeah. Well, and being Philippines, I mean, the Brady Bunch must have been very important to you because it's like, American people.
Well, that, and believe it or not, we were just talking about this in the pre-interview, the series UFO. I love the series UFO, and another series that we're talking about here, Chris, is The Prisoner. So that was my influences: UFO, The Prisoner, and the Brady Bunch. That's probably why I turned out so, you know, kind of wacky. You know, think about it.
That's a good
Snarky?
choice.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Susan's on today, and we're going to talk about kind of 2024, where we think it's going to go, where the influences have been, and what we have to look at. So, Susan, one of the things that I've talked about with you both on and off the air is the fact that I feel there's a war on women from the left, that the left has completely taken what I believe to be progress we've all made as a society to create equality, to create a circumstance that, you know, you as a kid were kind of on the cutting edge. You were seen as a icon. You still are. And yet somehow now women are being degraded because, gee, the best women, according to the left, are men who pretend to be women. So what do you think?
Well, you know, I met Gloria Steinem in the new Brady Bunch backyard, no less. And I have to say, I'll always admire her because she spoke to me and she discussed things with me. And she knew straight off the bat that we were on polar opposite ends. But, you know, and any lefty who's willing to talk, she even shushed somebody that came over to try to save her from me. So, you know, I love that. And I thanked her for, you know, hey, first wave feminism was great. Second wave, you were a big part of, and that was great. Third wave, nah, can't do it. And this is before we had all this trans stuff going on. Where now I would say, if there is a movement, it's definitely not for feminism. It's for destroying women. But, you know, I started out by saying, look, any women's movement that has a women's march led by Linda Sarsour, an advocate for Sharia law, is the zenith of stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, Linda's such a nice person.
Oh, no. Oh, no, she's not. Oh, no.
And,
No.
Well, she has been laying low, but, you know, everybody was laying low when Trump was in office. And my roots are being a counter jihadist. So that's kind of what I pay attention to. She started trying to educate me about Islam. And I was like, oh, honey, don't go there. Just don't go there. It's not going to be pretty. And I don't want to have an argument in the Brady Bunch backyard. But I mean, she was telling me that the prophet was a feminist because, his wife did all the work and made all the money. And I'm like, yeah, that makes both of my husbands really big feminists.
Yeah.
So I just
I'd be a feminist if
That's right. So no, that's a great point. You could have turned the Brady Bunch backyard into the streets of San Francisco and had great car chases with guns. It would have been fun. So
and I liked her.
And
that's too bad. Well, so speaking to our audience, those who can't see, we're also joined by the Caballero Chris Cordani and the Contessa Elizabeth Breckenkamp of our normal crew, but we're actually joining everybody in together early so we can have a full-blown conversation with the full crew. So, Susan, to that point, I think this is where one of the notable things about our show is that we are willing to actually come in and talk to folks who are not considered conservatives. I mean, I think we're all libertarian. We all lean libertarian. But last week, we had a Green Party guy on called Matt Ho. Matt and I are friends. Matt is a Green Party guy. But the thing was, we were willing to have him on. He and I used to be on MSNBC. In the old days, I was one of the few conservatives who they would have on back when Dylan Ratigan had his show. But that's notable to your point, is that it seems like the other side doesn't want to have the dialogue. We're willing to have the dialogue. They're not.
Exactly. That's why I was so impressed with Gloria. And she's also really pretty. But yeah, I mean, that's almost always the case. And the thing that the government doesn't want you to know, because they don't want us talking, we aren't that different. If you really talk about real basic issues, everybody pretty much wants the same thing. The biggest difference is that our friends on the left have been lied to and believe it. And it's really sad because they honestly think that anybody that says, for example, the so-called vaccine, the bioweapon,
we can talk about that.
Yeah, it was safe and effective. And it prevented people from going to the hospital. I'm like, oh boy, you got that from CNN. No, everybody in the hospital towards the end of the scamdemic had been vaccinated. And that's why they were in the hospital.
Well, let's break that down for a fact. Because Susan, this is one of the things I've always appreciated about you. And when we came together as kind of teammates and colleagues is, you were very outspoken, and I was too. It's like there's something wrong here. There's something fundamentally wrong. One of the things I noticed early on is like they're not encouraging people to have good health. Hey, have healthy food, exercise, get outside in the sun. The best thing you can do is be healthy. None of that. It was like the opposite, like lock yourself up. Get in the closet because it may chase you into the closet. And then the whole thing about
they push the fear.
You got to mask up. You got to mask up in a restaurant and walk to your table, but you can take your mask off when you sit down. It's like, what? What kind of insanity is this? And you were, God bless you, early on speaking about this. And by the way, it took more courage for you than me because of where you live.
And then the industry, which I have no desire really to be a part of. I teach acting for children. I think Hollywood is just a band of idiots. And they're making lousy stuff because everybody's a diversity hire and they're not hired for their creativity. But it's still, I still love, I love films and I'm an artist. But,
that's true. Where's the creativity? Shouldn't these people, these DEI people go be setting up air traffic or something like that instead?
Oh, please.
Assembling Boeing airplanes. That's what they're doing. Yes.
Assembling airplanes.
Look, DEI and the quality of every industry in the U.S. correlate right there. Everything is going down. DEI goes up, quality goes down. That's exactly what happens. Can't deny that now.
I saw that with the airline industry and flying aviation in general. It's like, oh my gosh, now they're going to hire people for skin color regardless of whether or not they're accomplished or they have.
Apparently who they sleep with. Because, like Corinne Jean-Pierre, she bragged about like she was the first openly homosexual and African American. It's like, so you're telling me that you got hired not because of ability to be a good, a well-spoken public speaker, because she clearly is not. She stutters all the time. But you got hired because of the color of your skin, which you have no control over, and who you sleep with. Seriously, that's how we're going to hire people? Oh my gosh.
Well, so let me make a comment on that. But first off, I like lesbians because they like what I like. I think that's a good combination. Just saying. And so I do like the fact that, what the heck. I used to actually go to a place called Cafe Weird in Minneapolis and sit with my lesbian friends and watch girls. And those are the good old days. Those are the 90s when we all got along. So just saying, I think it's great. My problem with Jean-Luc Picard, Karine Abdul-Jabbar, whatever her name is that she is completely bereft of any intelligence or ability to do her job. Exactly. She says the same things over and over. So it has nothing to do with who she sleeps with or her skin color. She's just not competent. And people don't want to talk about that.
Well,
she's not competent, but she got hired anyway.
Doesn't that make her the perfect representation of this administration then?
Yes,
exactly. If you're competent, you're just even better at lying.
Right. Like Kamala Harris.
But she's not good at it. That's the thing. She's not good at it.
At their job.
But see, that ginger that before her, can't think of her name.
Circle Back woman.
Oh,
Miss Circle Back.
I mean, she's really good at lying. That's why she's working at CNN now. Yeah. But that to me is more evil. Karine just I kind of feel bad for her.
Well, the thing about her is you watch her and she has the same answers over and over again. When we saw Katie McEnany had the job when Trump was she used to have a notebook. But she wouldn't have the same things. She'd be able to bring up things that happened in the past and back up everything she said when she said it. When Karine Jean-Pierre answers questions, she has stock answers. This is a president who cares about people. We're building the economy from the bottom up, middle out, and this is the president who cares. This president has done so much, and the Republicans haven't done anything. And that's her answer to almost every single question.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Correct.
And I do question her preference because of the constant flirting with Peter Doocy. But that's a different story and a different thing.
So,
yeah, that's true.
Peter and I are friends, and I should ask him about that. I've not addressed that. But,
it's like a love-hate kind of thing going on.
Well, no, I think he's got the same thing. He's got a guy crush on John Kirby too. And by the way, doesn't John Kirby? He looks absolutely fabulous. Darling, absolutely. You look absolutely marvelous, absolutely. No, John is the snappiest dresser this side of Attila the Hun. Really, he really knows how to dress. He does. And then
he's a little short guy too.
He and Peter going at each other. You'd almost think that they want to go off to a gay bar somewhere. No, I shouldn't say that because I actually like Peter. So John Kirby. Look, let me say this for the record, for those listening. And John, if you're listening, which I know you probably do secretly, look, the best thing you could do is transition. If you could start a transition to being a girl, being a woman, be the woman you can be. And that way you can have two lesbians on the podium, right? He and Karine, right? They could be like side by side.
Not really, because then you can fire Karine. You have more. You can fire Karine and have a trans as your spokesperson.
Oh, that's right. John Kirby
John would look good in heels and eye shade. I just
don't think he would look good in heels. No, but whatever.
I think so.
No, I don't care what you are. Do the job. That's all I can say. Do the job and represent well. And Kirby actually does a good job there. This is where the best example of DEI hiring is the assistant health secretary.
God.
Look, I don't care if you're trans in that respect. I don't care because you're a doctor if you're qualified. The fact is, the example of health in America happens to be one of the most morbidly obese people in the administration.
Exactly.
How?
Exactly.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
And let me make clear on this for the audience to know. Like, I'm friends with Rick Grinnell. Rick is gay. I don't care. I love Rick. Not literally. You know what I mean. Rick's a great guy. He's competent. He was the actual first member to be gay, openly gay, on the cabinet. Yet the left doesn't want to recognize that because, he doesn't meet their requirement to be wackadoodle and incompetent. So just.
Yeah, and that's such a shame because I really feel. I mean, and I would have to say, even though reports of me being a homophobe are fake news,
Yeah.
I've had my percentage of friends who are straight and who are gay is definitely on the gay side. Definitely.
Yeah, I know.
And
It shouldn't matter, but people.
Yeah, and it doesn't
Susan,
matter.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what the goal
Yeah.
was.
Just keep it to yourself, you know?
Of course.
Yeah.
But they want us all to hate each other so that we can't unite and fight the real enemy, which is them.
Right.
So they're going to pit
on that.
straight.
No,
and
on that
gay
point,
again.
Susan, our mutual friend Cherie Curry, God bless her. You guys are close friends, and Cherie obviously does the bumper and theme music for our show, which you'll hear when we put it all together.
Oh, I love
She's
it.
on your T-shirt.
Yeah, so Cherie's friends, gay friends, all love us. I mean, I interact with them on Facebook because they know we're not anti anything. We love people who, want to embrace freedom. We don't care who you are, just embrace freedom.
Right. And that's what we've worked hard for. And now
Right.
the left have taken everything back. I mean, it used to be that only a real Neanderthal thought that a gay man was interested in children until the left started doing their whole groomer push. And it has set things backwards so much, just like they've destroyed the women's movement.
Yep.
If there was a women's movement, I mean, obviously there isn't, because they would be fighting against men in women's sports. But
you're exactly right.
everybody's suicidal on the left.
Right.
They all vote for their own demise.
Well, again,
men and women's bathrooms. Yeah, it's like, why aren't they fighting against that?
But you know what? They've always done that, and nobody needed to know. Nobody needed to care, because I had a lot of drag queen friends and transvestite friends, and it was very dangerous for them to go into a men's room. So they would go into the ladies' room because they looked like ladies,
And that's fine.
Cared.
It was no big deal. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's something though.
It's when you look, I like Susan, I've had a lot of gay friends, and I've known people who kind of do the funny stuff. It's like, I don't care. Go off and do it. If you do it in such a way to actually do it as a lifestyle, you're not trying to proselytize and force others to accept things that they don't agree with. It's like,
exactly.
I just don't care.
Others.
I spent a lot of time in Key West, and I'm not joking. I was assigned to the Joint Task Force there as a clandestine operative, and talk about a place where you can basically do anything and get away with it. So what? Go to Key West, have a great time, go with God. But it doesn't require people then to politicize the sexual or gender choices of someone. They can just live their lives. And this is why I don't like the left, because the left literally will do things to politicize it for purposes of trying to divide people, not bring people together.
This is where it becomes annoying.
Damage.
Right. Susan, you brought up the word homophobic. Okay. Can we stop these other people, the people on the left? Can we stop adding the suffix phobic to everything that you're trying to push?
Yeah, the word doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Phobia is an extreme fear of something.
Yeah, nobody's
I don't
afraid.
think anybody has an extreme fear of people who live a different lifestyle. I mean,
No.
the word doesn't make no sense.
Really. But I bit my tongue the other day because I was talking to somebody in the industry who kept using the word Islamophobia.
Yeah.
And I bit my tongue. I wanted to say Islamophobia is a word that was created by fascists and used by cowards to manipulate idiots. That's a quote. It's not Christian.
That's a great quote. I like that.
Well, let's turn the tables on them. And whenever we talk to them, when you hear them say, "Well, you're a transphobe," or "You're an Islamophobe," turn it around and use the things. Talk to them. Well, okay. Well, you're a knowledge phobe. You're a Catholophobe, a Christiophobe. Just add phobe. Show them how silly it is. But that's exactly what they are anyway. They're the ones they're projecting their fear of things onto the rest of us.
A Jewophobe.
That's right.
Yeah, they're really great at projection.
Did you know that there's a new phobe called Joe Biden phobe, and it's a fear of tapioca? It's a new one.
A fear of tapioca and a fear of ice cream.
That's right.
That's bad because I love ice cream.
I do too. So, all right. Well, let's continue with the conversation regarding the fact that I think we define this is the other thing too, Susan. I think you'd agree. The left tries constantly to seize language. They try to make us say things and do things that are completely not in our interest, not in the interest of their constituents either. And yet somehow we don't fight back to take that language back. I think the homophobe thing is a great example. You know, the other thing I've heard the left do is they always use emotion intertwined with this language. Obama used to always talk about how, you know, we want a kinder world. It's like, what the hell does that even mean?
What kind?
The world is not a kind place. I mean, it's like, how do you define objectives to do that? And by doing this soft but very much rainbows and unicorns language, it enables them to basically pull the wool over people's eyes because, oh, we're doing it for the good of the world. No, you're not. You're doing it to enrich some knucklehead's bank account in Davos, and you're doing things to disadvantage and control people for no reason through the Green New Deal. So how do we combat this language thing?
By exposing it, by exposing the lies.
And turning it around
about
on
it.
them. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
for
exactly
sure.
what they're afraid we're going to do because, you know, the geniuses in Davos, it's like, they're all in one place. Why can't, come on, God, make it.
I know, hundreds of airplanes. Imagine
No.
what we could do with a certain type of air defense system.
Yeah, but it doesn't, none of their rules apply to them. But
right.
biggest threat to them is misinformation, disinformation. Well, we all know that that's their way of talking about the truth. And they don't want us to know the truth because they like to manipulate us and manipulate us through fear. And you can't manipulate people if they have access to the facts.
Right.
Right.
And they don't want
that's
that.
why it's
and I've
so
noticed
important.
how our search engines have really been captured.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And that's why it's so important for them to get with the people who own Google, the people who own YouTube. They can't get with Twitter anymore because Elon Musk has that now. But that's why they want to get with them so they could, like in the 2020 election, they were purposely, Mark Zuckerberg and the people on Google were purposely working the narrative with the Democrat Party so that every time somebody said, oh, just Google it. I now say when people say Google it, I say, no, duck, go it. You know, find another search engine, duck, go. Yeah, because they purposely manipulate the information so that you think that Trump is a horrible, hateful, misogynistic, racist person, and Joe Biden loves people so much, and that's why he has an open border to let all the people in because he loves them so much.
All right.
Yeah.
Here is the perfect example of the World Economic Forum and their theme to, let's say, reestablish trust in them. This is this says everything right here. A lecture and a discussion called "The Clear and Present Danger of Disinformation," hosted by none other than Brian Stelter.
Tater.
What does that tell you?
Stelter.
Tater.
Oh, man.
What does that tell you?
Tater.
Everything. Well, did you see Adam Shifthead get called out?
Adam Shifthead.
That pencil neck geek. And he admitted it, that Russian collusion was a lie. He admitted it.
Yeah.
But he
feels comfortable saying it now.
Save us from Trump.
Another hit from Steve Garvey, by the way.
Yeah, Steve, that was a great takedown. And it was very simple too. It's like, yeah, you lied to 300 million. That's it. And it's great. So by the way, for the record, I've been in the same room with Brian Stelter, and he does smell like a potato. Just saying. I mean, I just want to.
Smells like a potato.
Kind of like a raw potato. You know when you like take potatoes. Susan, you must listen in the old days. You know, you kind of shave off from the.
Yeah, you have to peel it.
That's his. He smells like a wet potato.
A raw potato,
which is not bad. It's better than a rotten potato, I suppose, but it is a potato nonetheless.
And I hear Hillary smells of sulfur. So.
I can believe that. Yeah,
I do now, and I always said, "Oh, let's
Brimstone.
not go into the, all that stuff." And now I'm like, "Oh man, the devil is afoot."
She basically, I think she wears brimstone jewelry too. Just saying.
Well, those pantsuits are hideous
because her hand touches that Bible.
She'll explode.
Well, so Susan, do you believe that speaking of putting hands on, do you think that Hillary puts her hands on Bill at all anywhere?
No, he likes to watch. He's Chauncey Gardner.
I feel your pain there, Susan.
I feel bad for him, kind of.
I don't know.
I don't
They're-
feel bad for him. He
they're- I
made
don't-
his choices. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
Susan,
go.
you're
True, but
misreading me.
my mom called it.
That's right. No, Susan.
Your mom?
Susan, you're
Yeah,
misreading
way
him.
back.
He wants to feel your pain.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
he
he
wants to
does.
feel your-
Yeah,
He does.
and on the way to the pain, there's so many stops.
That's
But,
right.
My mother,
That's close, but no cigar.
the first scandal, she's like, Hillary's not going to leave. I remember her talking on the phone to her sister, going, Hillary's never going to leave him because she wants to be president.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was in the very beginning, before we knew her.
Yeah.
So mom was insightful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now she might set a trend where other first ladies are going to try to run for president. But I don't know if I should close off this half of the show with that.
All right. Well,
Um,
we could close out with worse things, but no, I think the idea of Bill, hands on Bill Clinton. What a great place to stop, right? Hillary and Bill. That could be a drinking game. Where are Hillary's hands? That would be a great drinking game, don't you think? Kind of.
oh my
Oh,
gosh.
Yeah,
And
I
Marky
think. Anyway,
Post
so
passed
speaking,
away.
so we'll put off Hillary's hands and where they're placed until the second part of the show, right? So we're
Yeah.
going to take a break right now. We're going to come back for part 2 of the Hard Truth with Tony Shaffer right after this break. Hey, this is the Hard Truth part 2 with Tony Shaffer, still powered by Sig Sauer, Never Settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carried the best. I recommend you carry the best. Never settle. Go out and get Sig Sauer. You will not be unhappy. You will be very happy. We are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com.net, and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. We're continuing with Susan Olsen, our friend Susan, who we've had a great dialogue and discussion of all the issues relating to the weaponization of language, the left departing from principles that they said they supported but really didn't, and kind of the weaponization of government against people. And let's continue down that path. Chris, you wanted to roll us into this with some Davos commentary, right? I mean, and by the way, speaking of Davos, real quick, I mean, who did? I can't believe that John Kerry, old Boltnick himself, is signing off as the global, I mean, I can't believe that. And I've heard, maybe Susan, maybe you can confirm this. Is he going back to produce a reimagining of the Munsters because he looks so much like Herman Munster? Is that true?
I don't know, John, why the long face?
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
All right, Chris, who is this person you
know
wanted?
what? He impressed me with his brain. When he was trying to learn about Islam and he was reading I always called him Raisin Asshat.
He's the guy that ate human brain. He's not the.
I mean, just everything he does is so surface and so virtue signaling, and there's never any knowledge behind him. There's never like he can't.
Substance.
Yes, exactly. He's just, well, I mean, they all basically are superficial, but for him, it's just so obvious. He can't give you any scientific facts.
No.
Right.
He's just a self-appointed guru of
No, I look, I've got a degree
Yeah.
in environmental studies, and I can tell you from the basic degree plus the experience I've had after, it's all nonsense. CO2 is simply plant food. And I always use this. I always use this. Right now, at the moment we're speaking, there are 3.04 trillion trees. That's a lot of trees. And each one of those, on average, processes, absorbs, whatever you want to call it, 48 pounds of CO2. And if you put the two together, there's no crisis. Literally, the plant life on the planet absorbs all the CO2. And plus, CO2 is not a greenhouse gas. Methane, things like, which I think John Kerry is a big emitter of, that's a gas that needs to be dealt with, and he's full of it. Just saying. So anyway,
he goes to Davos to just get out of the house and hit on babes. That's what he does. That's all.
he's
Oh
such a babe magnet. I can tell from that long face of Susan pointed.
Yeah.
Well, I used to be an inside grower of a certain plant. And
I
we
have friends
used
that
to
do that too out there. Where you're
I grow basil in my house as well.
get,
Basil, oregano. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's
It's
And
good. No,
dandelions.
Susan, I mean, you're amongst friends here. I mean, we're
well,
we're all
it's
fine with it.
statute of limitations is perfectly legal now, but back when
Yeah.
it was very illegal, my husband and I grew pot, and we grew it indoors hydroponically, and we used to go out and get canisters of CO2
There you go.
for when they were flowering, and because
Right, because
it
you need it.
made them grow so much better.
Right.
So when did it become bad for the environment?
It became bad because they're trying to limit us and our freedom. So, Chris, you want to roll into this other guy? Because I think this is the heart of who they are and what they're trying to do, right?
All right, you don't have
Oh,
freedoms.
God.
Freedoms are fictional, according to the World Economic Forum. Okay, and you saw this in a recent TED Talk. It was posted by the Liberty Daily, and another show that I work with has also pinpointed this as well. There's a man listed as a World Economic Forum agenda contributor. And don't let the fact checkers lie about this, because you search him on Google, it says agenda contributor, and then his name. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. He's a professor in Israel. He did this TED Talks, and in the middle of this, he said that human rights are fictional, just like religion and God, all fictional. Humans really have no rights, and that was that's the basic premise of his writings, by the way. But these are the people you're dealing with. I'm thinking, you know how supervillains were always, Tony, you're a science fiction guy. You know how supervillains are made, right? The kid gets picked on in school too much, or something bad happens to him, and he's like, I will show you, I will get the entire world when I grow up. Well, I think that's the case here. If
That's
you
it.
will. I mean, how many times did it take for this man to be thrown in a locker in school to come up with such notions like you people do not have free will and freedom? Human rights are something that are fictional and a construct in our minds.
So he looks like the Jimmy Bond character in the original Casino Royale, where Woody Allen wants to take over the world as a short guy and make everybody small. So that's him right there. That's the Bond villain that we're talking about. Not even a serious one, just a fictional, a funny one.
I was thinking Darth Vader without hair.
Well, and he also says
Or Dark
that
Helmet,
they
not
will
Dark
get better
Helmet,
at being God. They will
Yes.
surpass God, which to say that to an audience without any fear is, I don't know. I mean, I don't really.
I guess
I believe in God, but not religion. But if there
me too.
was an
No, I feel the
Antichrist,
same way.
that
I-
guy-
No, but that's the point, Susan, that they're trying right now, I think, hard. And this guy is very much the face of it, so to speak, other than John Kerry being
well,
long-faced.
nothing could be more evil though
Yes.
than surpassing God, which in my book means you're better than nature. I mean,
Right.
look at Bill Gates. Talk about somebody who didn't get laid in high school.
Oh, my God. He doesn't get laid
wants to grow
now.
hydroponically. He wants every head of lettuce to be grown in a warehouse. Where is this grid, this electrical grid that everything's going to depend on? We can't support electric cars. And Elon Musk is the first to say that.
Oh, yes. Electric cars. Yeah.
Speaking of Bill Gates, real quick, did you know that he's actually trying to develop a line of AI blow-up dolls? I don't know why.
Oh, boy.
Just saying.
Never like
So
that,
anyway,
man.
back. But no, to
Oh,
Susan's
my
point, and
God.
let me
Epstein
expand on-
Island is closed.
That's right. He's got to do something.
What's the guy going to do?
So, but this is the point: is that the green, to your point, Susan, the Green New Deal, this whole idea that climate should be our focus as a society, is literally their new religion. It is their religion. This has become their thing. That's why science doesn't apply. Why would you apply scientific concepts like using CO2 to promote plant growth when you can make it the enemy and say, oh no, we need to cut that off, because the more people have freedom, the more they'll produce CO2, and the more CO2 is produced, the environment will be better, and people will be free in a nice environment, because they don't want that. They want the opposite. They want us to eat bugs. They want us to own nothing and be happy. Literally, they've said that. That's their policy.
Yeah,
Because they see us
they don't hide
as
it.
they see us as a resource and simply animals. They don't acknowledge the spark of divinity in all of us. They don't.
No, not a bit.
That's
But they
a really
don't
good point.
recognize the spark of divinity in them, except in a power way, and
Right.
that they will
Physical
become
power.
gods.
But the
You
question
talk
comes.
about a power trip, and they don't hide it. I don't understand why there aren't more protesters, or maybe there are, but you got all these a-holes in one place.
But
I
okay,
mean, where's the fight back?
Susan, Tony, Elizabeth, the real question is, what kind of genetic defectives does it take to believe all this garbage and stand behind it? These people are blatantly, openly telling you, let's cut down the food supply. Okay, they're telling you, guys don't really travel anywhere because you're ruining the skies for us. And by the way, all you really need to do is stick in these little 15-minute bubbles. Don't eat meat. We want the steaks. You can have the synthetic stuff. Wouldn't that be nice and tasty? I mean,
let's all eat tofu.
And yes, free will and freedom. Never. They're upset because Soylent Green never really happened because it should have happened last year. Soylent Green was supposed to have taken place in 2023. Now, just like Agenda 21, it was pushed back about 10, 20 years.
Yeah. So, that's the point. It's like it's all about manipulation and trying to subordinate human beings and human spirit to a larger monolithic government that controls things. And by the way, this has been going on for a while. This is not a conspiracy. Susan, you know about Agenda 21. You and Cherie talk about it. It's like it's there.
I was
it's
talking
obvious.
about
It's their
it
plan.
on our show probably 10 years ago. Well, not me and Cherie, although I think Cherie and I should have a show. But
Cherie has talked about it.
Yes. But why do people fall for this? One, they're afraid of the truth. They don't want to see it. Also, this doesn't apply to everybody, but young people that are so misguided. I think there's a lack of parenting, so they kind of want Big Brother.
Yeah. No doubt.
Absolutely.
They never were given, because I know, as a parent, not giving your child limits makes them extremely insecure because they don't know where the walls are, where the boundaries are. And I think
healthy boundaries
grown up that way. And now they want boundaries, so they want somebody to tell them what to do.
Right.
No, one of the best things I ever did.
Deliberate.
I agree. A lot of it has to do with
my oldest son is now 29. He was given limits. He was a Boy Scout, an Eagle Scout, actually worked his way through. Didn't like it at the time. He hated it. But he's told me, it's like, Dad, man, I recognize now you forcing me to do that was one of the best things that could have happened. Mm-hmm. He's a rugged guy. He's got a great fiance. He's, dare I say, more stable than I was at that age, just saying. And he's a great kid, and he's doing well. He's a fireman. He's a fireman medic, really wants to do well. So he went in a direction which I'm very proud of. And boy, as much hell as I gave my parents, I am so amazed that I've got such a good kid. It's like, wow, how did I luck out? So, wow. But speaking of lucking out, let's go to an area where I think we all want to talk about a little bit is what's going to happen this year, 2024. So one of the things that we're walking up to, and we're taping the show at the very time where Carrie Lake was attempted by the guy who runs the Republican Party to be bribed. Basically say, hey, take a powder for 2 years. How much? Name your price. Now think about that. Think about what that means. It's like, and I think this is just one instance of corruption that we all know what happens. It's just, this is one of the most blatant, like looking behind the curtains. So Susan, if someone's willing to basically write a large check to Carrie Lake because she is so outspoken about the freedoms we've been talking about, a woman who has really been her coin of the realm, her reputation is based on disrupting the institutions and the momentum of those institutions. She should have been governor of Arizona. They, I think, cheated and beat her. So what do you think, how desperate is the deep state going to be this year coming up to the 2024 November elections?
It's really frightening to think of how desperate they will be, and let's not forget that includes Republicans. Although
it's a Republican thing with her.
They're terrified. Yeah. They're terrified. In fact, I did like the fact that guys like President Milley just told these people to their faces that they're doing wrong for the world. Told them to their faces what was going on. We don't have politicians like that often. We have very few of them, if any, and they don't get power.
But why the funky hair? Why is it that the guys on our side tend to have such bad hair?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I could work with them on that.
I adore him. I just love him. I love that he says it, and he's correct. But it is scary, especially like I just heard that, and I'm going to go ahead and say what financial. Well, okay, it's a financial institution that's something of this country, and they were going through people's records to find transactions that included words like MAGA or Trump.
Yes.
But then it also got out. And I'm thinking that this is really the manipulation, is letting people know that this was happening. It may not be happening, but now people have to be afraid of donating to Trump because
That's what
now
they're trying to do. It's intimidate, right?
And by the way, and we have reason to be afraid because we know that there are January 6 people who did nothing more than walk into the Capitol and take selfies, who are now in prison and without due process. And I had somebody arguing very strongly with me, and they said, "Well, what are their names?" I'm like, "I don't know them," but I do believe that there are still people who have not had due process.
Right.
They're not there because they had a trial and got convicted.
Well, had they been burning down cities in the George Floyd well, let's say mostly horrid protests, then the Democrats would have bailed them out.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who's in prison? Who's languishing in prison and begging to be transferred to Gitmo? Who was rioting and burning down buildings and killing people during the Summer of Love?
Right. Well, that's the thing. The left is, again, converted what should have been real accountability of their side, which is BLM and the whole issue regarding Antifa. Antifa is real, and people literally got away with murder. There were murders during this time that were never accounted for. And it's interesting, Susan, that you should list it out, because one of the things I've noticed about, I had to go down and do media on election night of 2020 in DC. Literally, parts of the city were still burning from the protests against Trump on November. Yeah, it's so how do you not get? And you had police literally roving in patrols. Police wouldn't even go out by themselves; they had to be in patrols. So how that's insurrection? That's clearly insurrection.
That's an insurrection.
Oh yeah,
that's
that was
election denial.
Right.
And Hillary spent the next 4 years looking straight into the camera, and saying, you can do your best job and still have it stolen from you. And she paid for the dirty dossier.
Yeah, you're right. She did.
Yeah,
so speaking of Hillary, since she came up again, Chris, how much would someone have to pay you to have you put your hands on Hillary somewhere?
I mean, it all depends. A damn good meatball sandwich. No, I'm kidding.
You
It
wouldn't
has to be a really good one.
You wouldn't.
Where do you
it.
have to put
No
your
way.
hands? That's
There
It
we
would be
go.
like it would like be putting your hands on pure evil. As a matter of fact, real quick. So I actually, speaking of a little story, I was in MSNBC. I used to do MSNBC, as I mentioned, because I was one of the guys who would go on with some of the folks. And the makeup artist there was a kind of a cool person. I liked her. We got along. And she said, Colonel Shaffer, last week, John Brennan, the director of CIA, was in to do a hit, and I had to put his makeup on. And I said, really? What was that like? What was it like to have to touch his face? She said, it was like touching pure evil.
Mm.
Well,
And I think it's true. There is evil.
Let's turn pure evil into pure goodness. How about that? We're good people here, and it's time for Tony's Takes. Tony's Takes. Yes. And that's powered by Sig Sauer. Never settle. I don't, because I don't settle for stupid questions when it comes to Tony's Takes, and I'm pretty sure Tony doesn't either, or else we'd all get fired. All right, so let's have some fun. Tony, Susan, Elizabeth, let's go here. Nikki Haley finished a rather distant second in the New Hampshire primaries. She did, however, pat herself on the back anyway, acting like this was some sort of victory. Granted, the 1899 Cleveland Spiders probably celebrated coming close to wins in their 20-win and 134-loss season from that year. And so let's put it this way. Haley considers this to be a great result and something to build on. But seriously, what's your take?
So I am proud of the fact that she did not actually do anything to use military force to achieve any strategic objectives within New Hampshire. So I'm very proud of that fact. And despite her reputation for being a male Dick Cheney, I think that she did pretty well not picking up any of Dick's bad habits.
Especially the
come out
hunting
okay?
habits.
Hunting. Let's not go hunting.
That's right.
Nikki Haley. Yeah.
No people were shot in the process of her trying to achieve political victory, which we should all be thankful for, right?
I'm with you.
But yeah.
I think she was
Grateful
just
for small
excited she was
achievements.
there.
That's right. You know what they say about Dick Cheney, right?
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Dick Cheney before he dicks you, right? Didn't you hear that?
ooh. That's,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
I got to
Oh.
hand it to you on that one.
But
All
all right.
All right. Tony, Elizabeth, Susan, let's try this one. A Canadian federal court judge found Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's use of a counterterrorism law to shut down the Freedom Convoy of 2022. Remember the trucker protests? Well, that's interesting. You'd think they'd be on his side. What does this tell you? Tony, what's your take?
So I think that any time you have truckers and Canadians, it's a dangerous situation because the Canadians are so nice. The idea of trying to actually stop commerce is hard for them because they want to give you like everything. There's Canadians who would literally give you the back bacon off their back just to help you to make sure that you get your stuff through. So it was really a tough situation for the Canadians to be stuck with that, so to speak. And it goes against the very nature of Canadians being good people to actually have to enforce such a draconian thing to stop convoys. So I think this going to continue to be a backlash to all of that. Right, Chris?
That's
think
true.
so.
And they had a great big envoy strolling through the night.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Very smoky.
I had to do that. I just had to. Susan, Elizabeth, what are your takes on all this stuff here?
One of my very best friends, my former roommate from Canada, she's back to Canada. We lived together back in early 90s. And we've recently reunited, and she's very hip to what's going on here, and very hip to what's going on there. And I think any glimmer of hope for Canadians is good because we know Trudeau won't. I mean, he might as well be at the WEF. I mean, he has. We're now in an environment of political figures hating us.
Yep.
Just despising us. And while they're supposed to protect us, they're doing the opposite. And they resent us. And Trudeau is one of those people. And of course, the WEF love him.
They do. Well, he was brought up by them. He was recruited early on. By the way, Susan, I don't know if you knew, I actually my son wanted to go to Canada for November for Thanksgiving, and we actually went up to Montreal, and we were trying to see if we could watch Justin Trudeau's eyebrows fly south for the winter. Unfortunately, we didn't see it. It didn't happen. We were looking for it.
It never happened. Oh.
Never happened. We were looking though, looking to the sky.
Yeah, he does look an awful lot like somebody.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, and he likes smoking cigars, just not publicly.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know
he
why.
looks good in that, like combat green.
Yeah, that's right. He's got that military fatigue look. He looked good in that. So
I think he has that kind of face where you just automatically don't trust anything he says. He just looks smarmy, you know.
Yeah. Oh, and
Yeah.
he acts so smarmy. The footage of him getting his bioweapon, which
yeah,
saline. And he's just there's a little jab. No big deal.
well, I think I get.
So hard to be
Susan, I think he.
likable.
No, Susan, I think he likes little jabs, just a lot more than he's willing to acknowledge.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. All right.
Okay.
Just
We have a
saying.
couple
Just
minutes
saying.
left. Let's
Nothing
close
wrong
this.
with that.
All right,
Nothing wrong with it. Just
Yeah.
saying. It's like I just.
let's close this one out with another good one here. All right.
All right.
Here you go.
All right.
Baseball great Steve Harvey. We alluded to him earlier today.
We did.
He basically took down, as you know, Adam Schiff, he was reported to have a really good chance of winning the U.S. Senate seat from California, formerly held by the late Dianne Feinstein. Now, here's something interesting for you. This could be a really bad year overall for Democrats in the Senate. They could see a lot of seats, let's say, turning the other way, unless maybe something happens, which we'll step back from there. But what's your take on both Garvey? What's your take on both Garvey and potentially a bunch of potential flip seats in the Senate?
So, Chris, it's okay. If you need to slow down speaking the English language, we can always go to Esperanto. I love Esperanto, by the way. Why didn't Esperanto ever catch on? I don't know why. But speaking of the situation, look, if you are looking to Democrats for leadership, you might as well be looking to mold as a food source, because it's just going to be that bad. I mean, it's something of a situation where if we can gain more seats, that is common sense. I don't even think it's a left-right thing. I mean, we talked amongst ourselves. Susan, I think you'd agree. I don't think it's a left-right thing. I think we're all just people who want to be free. We all lean libertarian. I don't understand how people do not wake up and invest in their own self-interest. And trust me on this, voting for a knucklehead like what's his name, pencil neck,
Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff. It's like he will continue to keep the border open, invoke and inflict pain on the women's movement by supporting the idea of men being women, continue to keep the border open and fentanyl to come in and ruin every community in the United States. We just had 4 people die here in Chihuahua County a few days ago. It's all bad. So what do you think, Susan? What should we do to advise these folks on the election?
Well, I envision Dr. Evil or the devil himself or somebody looking at us and laughing their butt off, going, I can't believe they're swallowing.
Yeah.
They're voting for their own demise. This is great. And it's always been the plan. In the 60s, the Frankfurt School, all of this has been in the works, but now it's real. And I have a friend who has a 1-year-old son, and he's white. I'm like, if you want any future for your white male son, how in the world could you be voting Democrat? You don't have to be a Republican. But you can't vote Democrat because there's nothing democratic about them.
Not a thing. They are the most undemocratic people I know. Right here, just a quick note before we leave, because we got to go. Here in North Carolina, they prevented any other Democrat from being on the ballot to oppose Joe Biden in the primary because it says in their own rules, anybody who is nationally recognized, and my friend Marianne Williamson, I know her not well, but I know her. And this other guy, what's his name? Chris, the other Democrat congressman, Weed or something like that.
The easily forgettable guy. Yes.
Anyway, they are being prevented from being on the ballot to oppose Joe Biden, and the party says, "Yeah, we don't care. We're just breaking our own rules." So how is that democratic?
Well, I mean, laws are paramount.
Yeah. But anyway, it's been enlightening and fun to have you, Susan. I hope you come back soon.
Thank you. I'd love to anytime.
Yeah, no, this has been a great show.
Seeing you, Elizabeth.
It was nice seeing you again.
Cyber met before.
Yes, Elizabeth is great.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, just a quick note, and the audience, I think, may remember this. Elizabeth served with me in the Army. She was the public affairs office above me when I did the book Operation Dark Heart. So she was very supportive when they were coming after me personally. She held the line and stayed loyal. Thank you, Elizabeth, for always being loyal.
Well, somebody had to, yeah.
Well, thank you.
I was in for 29 years. Tony and I worked together, and he was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's like why not be loyal? I mean, it's like a lot of so-called friends were like abandoning him. It's like, I'm supporting you because I know you're an honest guy, and all this stupid crap they're trying to make up about him wasn't remotely true.
Yeah, by the way, they tried. So again, Elizabeth and I are the dearest friends. We have never slept together, but they were convinced because we were friends oh, there must be something somewhere. So they scoured every email account they could to find something. It was so funny. Well, we're going to find something. It's like, no, you're not. It doesn't exist.
Who do they think you
Go
were?
ahead
Bill
and
Clinton?
try.
Yeah. I was no Bill Clinton. There you go. I don't know.
Well, they're looking for
I feel your pain. Huh?
They're looking for what they are. They can't
were.
imagine having a good
Yeah, I
person
know,
with
I
somebody
know.
who's opposite sex.
So, well, anyway, but Susan, thank you for being here. Chris, as always, thanks for running the board. Elizabeth, again, we'll be seeing you both next week, and we'll move on. So anyway, thanks again, y'all, for listening. We do this for you. Hopefully you all found it interesting and fun. We'll be back again next week for another episode of The Hard Truth. See you then.